Hey guys, it's Mel. Welcome to Monday Mindful. I know I've been toying around with some different names, and I finally got one this weekend. And Krissy Cressler is with me today. She was on Friday. If you watched the podcast, if you didn't, you have to. Billy and I both agree that it was one of the best episodes we have had. Now, I think this is we're going into our 90th episode, but we've done more together. I think we did about 100 so far on the Millennial, but we out of 90, I think that's a big thing to say, that one last week with you was the best. And I think I'm really glad to have done that one because I've been talking about doing some short, 15, 20-minute videos here on Mondays, just to kind of offset our podcast on Fridays, give us some more content and, some more opportunity for me to even share some of the things that I don't want to bore Billy with. But I think you gave me the extra oomph and the confidence on Friday. And I thought it'd be really great to have you on and just share. I had talked also about doing a little intro, recording like why I wanted to do this, how I got started with some of my journey of reading and growth and, my glow up and things after my divorce. Oh my gosh, it's been 7 years. And I always say 6, but now it's 7. But I didn't get to film that this weekend. And I just said, it's okay, let's just start. So I called this episode Just Start the Glow Up. And I think you'd be great to share. I want to hear about like other women's glow up and like how you just started. I think we just have to start. So that's why we're just on here. I don't have an intro. Billy's usually the one clicking all the buttons, but I just think, that it's really good timing for me. I think everything's about timing and where we're at, in our lives and like experience and what we're doing. And I just think that today was the day. And I'm really glad that you came on. So thank you for coming with me. And I'm not as scared now that I'm talking to somebody else. It's really hard to talk to yourself, but maybe just give everybody who's watching it, maybe didn't watch the podcast on Friday, like a recap of your book and a little bit about what the glow up is. And then we can kind of talk about some other people's experiences. And, I really resonate with it. I think that it's where I'm at. And I think that that's what's special about our, the connection that we made and why you're here today is to really kick off. I have to get the book, but this is kind of my, I've been doing the glow up, but this is really something that I wanted to do. So yeah, just take it away.
Girl, I am so proud of you, Mel, and I'm so blessed that I got to meet you. And this is just a great opportunity, but I'm proud of you because you just went out and started it. And I think you can share that story with a lot of women and let them know that, listen, now's the time. You can say you're going to do things constantly over and over. Well, someday, right? These things are going to happen, but you did it. It doesn't have to be perfect either. It doesn't have to be polished. It's hard for me to think that because I had to grow through that. But listen, girl, you just have to get yourself out there and you did it. So I'm excited to be here today. And for all of you that don't know who I am, my name is Krissy Cressler. I'm a crazy busy mama of 6 children. We are a beautiful blended family, his, hers, and ours. And my oldest son, Max, has Down syndrome. And I will tell you, he is the reason why I am who I am today. He is nonverbal. And I truly believe the dear Lord gave me a voice so that I can help him through this journey of life and really get to show people, his heart and soul through what he's taught me. And so my book, Let's Glow Girl, is all about teaching women how to glow up. And it takes them through a journey of each one of my kiddos and what they teach me, what they've taught me in my life. By having them in my life and how I utilize these things in life and in business. I will tell you, Mel, getting women to share their story is the heart and soul of the glow up. And I think what you're doing here on Mondays is going to be so empowering. Number one, because it's the beginning of our week, right? Let's be honest. If the morning has already went like blah, which my morning kind of did with the kids, everybody was grumpy today. I don't know what was in the air, but they were just
Yeah.
grumpy.
Well, it was like 19 degrees when we woke up. I mean, also, it's freezing.
True. Maybe that was why. But, it's having this for people to chime into. You pop it on in their car. Listen, don't watch it, right? Because you're driving. But just to have that little bit of get and go and teaching them, how to glow up in the mornings and get their week started. So I think what you're doing is going to be really great.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I mean, what I've learned too is like, nothing's going to be perfect. You just have to start. Your first podcast is going to be poop, like your first day of training is going to be poop. It's like super hard. And I think, we've seen a lot of growth in our podcast where we started, and, day one is always the hardest. And I think that because we have had the experience for a couple years doing it together, that I had wanted to do the why not yell with Mel, and it was going to be, other women and sharing stories about divorce. And like I said, things that Billy probably won't want to have anything to do with, that we whine about. But I think your suggestion too, which was to do one in the morning, and kind of kick off the day. And I read a book every morning that a lot of people have asked me about for, daily like affirmations and just to kind of get going and a little bit of inspiration, which would be really great to talk about things briefly in the morning. But you had suggested doing something even, as a recap on Mondays too. So I think that you're right. Like Monday, I didn't know what to call it, like motivation or mindfulness and that. And I think that, if we start off with our mind full, like meaning like we are just full of gratitude and full of ideas and full of, things that we want to do for the week, and that we start the week off right, with those good positive thoughts, that we can take that into the rest of the, the week. So I think also, when, maybe too about other people's, other women's starts, that you've seen, is it, mostly, I mean, I guess it could be a wide variety of why they're looking to find a little bit more, whether it's like their purpose or, things with relationship or jobs. Do you find that it's something that is an event that happens in their life? Is it where they just hit a point where they're like, I'm so tired and I'm exhausted of doing this that I need a change? Is it like rock bottom? I mean, is it all of the above? Like where that you've seen in your experience with so many other women, maybe you're right. Like maybe it's not just one thing, but what can you,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not just one thing. I've seen it all across the board, but I will tell you one of the biggest things that I see is a woman who just doesn't seem like herself when I'm talking to her. She lives her day in and day out, the same old routine, not living for anything, no purpose, doesn't see the future, doesn't have that vision. And you know what? She could have had that though years ago, but she got stuck into this slump where she just doesn't know that she has lost that all. And so it's those moments that I love to unravel and start talking and sharing with women to get them to understand a little bit more of who I am, and that it's just not, I'm not who I am today. I wasn't that always, and I still struggle. And it's breaking those things up. Like you talked about, I'm divorced too. Like I can completely relate to that. And we could share all kinds of things that would help unravel and help maybe show some of these reasons as to why, we're stuck in this position. And so the idea is to really get the talking,
right.
To unravel.
Yeah. I mean, I say that all the time. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago, 3 months ago, or yesterday. I mean, I think the goal is that we become a better version of ourselves every day. Right. But I look back and I used to say it in years, like, oh, I'm not the same person as last year, and 3 years and 5 years. But I mean, and we're not, I mean, we grow individually, and professionally and whatnot. But you made a comment earlier too about your kids, right? So I don't have children, but what I take is that every person that I've met that has come into my world, like that I've done life with, whether it's like a friend or with my family or like a romantic partner. So I feel that they've given me gifts of like, it's either a blessing or a lesson, right? It's good and bad. But I know that it's not, like I feel what you're saying about your children and like that they've taught you these things and like made you who you are. And I think that I've looked at different people that have come in and out of my life, and there's people that have been there. And then there's, people that you sometimes are there for a season, or, you might outgrow, or they're there to, like I said, like help you get through things. But I've looked at, the men that I've dated, or, best friends that I've had, and I've absolutely taken really good pieces from them about myself, and I've really interpreted what I did, what was a weakness of mine, what was a strength of mine, what not to make the same, mistakes, or to try to do better in, certain ways and not repeat things. But I think too that, it's I wouldn't have I couldn't do what I was doing now with that growth, and with like really like a lot of the things I'm doing spiritually, and, mindfulness and meditation, and like, just making certain decisions and taking action, like if I hadn't gone through all that.
Amen. Amen. And I will tell you, you're going through self-evaluation, right? You're self-evaluating all these things that have happened in your life, the people that have come in your life. And then you're taking those things, and instead of using them and putting yourself in what I would call the victim mentality, and using that to say, this is why I can't do these things, or this is why my future's not turning out the way.
I used to,
I used to too, girl. Amen. I mean, here's the thing. It's easy, right? How about it? It's easy to use those things that have happened in our life and say, well, this is why I'm not where I need to be now, because this happened. It's easy to give into that. It's really hard to look to yourself in the mirror and say, man, girl, you got to get your stuff together. You got some places of improvement that you need. Now let's figure out ways to do it. Right. And those situations and people that come into our lives teach us things that I think that looking to them more in a positive light, pulling out the positivity. Like, to be honest, I look at divorce, there are positive things that I pulled out from that to become a better person. I was not perfect either. Right. And it now has molded me into a woman who can be a better wife and a better mother. And those are things that sometimes not everybody looks to that way. And so it's really working on that mindset through, developing that process, which.
Right. And I mean, I looked at it like, even though it was, kind of, it wasn't, my marriage was a good marriage, and respectful and kind and loving. And, I just think that there were things that were missing, and fulfillment. And it was, it ended up being a mutual understanding of that. So it wasn't anything, that was toxic, or that was abusive. I'm obviously like those, that is a lot harder to grieve, and I think heal from that type of I've had relationships since that were not so great. But I think the divorce aspect was like, there was still shame and embarrassment, and I think that counseling really helped, and books. And that's where, I want to start from day one. So like, next week, I think what I want to do on here is really, and this is really good getting on with you and doing this, because it's kind of talking, it's like helping me create my plan.
I love it.
Like, now we're just on here talking, but it's like, I think next week would be really great, is like, we're talking about it now, so I can make my plan is to like, really start from day one, and kind of do almost like a, chronologically, like where it was, because I think that's helped other people. Other people came to me, why did you get divorced? Like what? And I share my story, and I could see their mind, like their eyes and their mind working, like thinking, not that they're saying that they're there too, but I think that, when I say, I want to, like, I was going to blink and be 90 and look back and be like, was this the life that I wanted to live? Like, there was just something there that just, I knew there was more out there for me, and I'm telling this story, and these women are like, and I can tell that maybe like they're thinking that too, I mean, this is years ago, but I wanted to show you, I know on the podcast on Friday, I pulled up this Post-it note. Now, you said you were a big fan of Post-it notes, and I told you I did my vision board, but now we're calling them action boards, ladies, and men. But I do have mine there. And, told you that I printed some out. I should have brought it down, but I'll maybe I'll do it next Monday of what I, in the morning. It's something that's on my bathroom. And at night, whenever I go in the bathroom, I read it out loud. It's just affirmations, because what I'm going through right now is just kind of being worthy of things. And this is what I wanted to show you. I didn't share it on Friday, but it says, I am not a victim. I am powerful. And I was watching I watch a couple podcasts. Again, I'm going to share podcasts. I'm going to share books. I'm going to share YouTube videos, like things that I've been doing, because it's changed my world, you know, and you coming on at that time Friday was such a great time. But, you know, I think, and maybe you can share a little bit about this, that a lot of the things that we have to uncover, like you said, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to say, hey, you know, I have these weaknesses, or I have these things I need to do better. I need to get it together. I think a lot of it stems from our past, you know, and even childhood, or attachment styles, or our love languages. And I started getting really into that, you know, years ago, but I didn't really dive into some of the things that were holding me back, that I think professionally, personally, financially. And in the last 2 months, and I go to counseling every month, and I start bringing out all these things that I'm learning. And it's like, each time I'm going, he's like mind blown. Like, you're like, I can just see my growth, but I can see him seeing like my growth, you know? And we talk about all these things. That, what do you think percentage wise is, if not 100%, right, is like external issues that's either happening in the environment around us in the present, or that happened to us in the past that we're just holding on to, but we don't necessarily know it unless we really, does that make sense? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. I will agree that sometimes I think you can go through life and just not even realize how much of it stems from, you know, and then all of a sudden, when one little thing can happen and you're like, wait, where did that come from? And then it starts unraveling all this stuff from the past. But the thing is like, once you figure out what it was, or a part of your life, it's then starting to understand it, right? Because it's one thing to, you know, process it, but you have to acknowledge it. And I've struggled with that for many years. I think I told you guys that on Friday. I struggled with being a good mom and a business owner at the same time, and being successful and being good at both. And I just didn't think I could possibly do it. And I really had to overcome that. But it stemmed from, you know, wanting to be that best mom so I could be the best role model for my children, right? And I didn't want anything to come in the way of that. And in my mind, I was thinking that this business, you know, and having a business would do that. And I had to really do some mind change, which comes in with reading books, listening to audibles, podcast, you know, all of these things are and people having the right influence around me, and having the right people.
Mentors. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And if you don't have one, and you've just been hearing people talk about them, what's holding you back, man? Get one. Like, find somebody. If you don't know one, and come to us, Mel and I can help you through that, finding with somebody that you're relatable to. But it's key. It's key, because those things before that, I mean, I could sit here and we could make this so long today. My gosh, I have so much limiting beliefs and so many things that have held me back, girl. We probably have way more in common than we know, even up to this point.
Yeah.
It's just being able to understand them, acknowledge them, and then work through them.
Right. And, you know, it's funny because it's so funny because when Billy and I first started the podcast, you know, and I think you're right. It starts with like one little feat of success of like a breakdown, vulnerability, honesty. And then it gets easier as you go. But the first thing that happened was like, I can't do this on my own. You know, I tried and it wasn't working, and I wasn't committing, and I wasn't consistent, and I didn't know, you know, I just needed help. And when I had him come on the first time, and I was like, yeah, listen, will you co-host this with me? It was the best decision I ever made, because I needed help. But what's funny was I needed help with a lot of other aspects of my life too, that I was going alone with, you know, in my business and my finances. And what's funny was I had started doing some other things in my life prior, like asking for help and, you know, being more honest, but it got a lot easier And I think with the podcast here, when we started, it allowed to share some of the stories and like the vulnerabilities of like, yeah, so I'm divorced. It's okay. Like, and talking about it, even just little tiny bits here and there. But I do think it's a matter also of, finding different people, because just talking about it, and then you meet those people that, they have friends. And I think that what my biggest thing was that, and a combination of getting out the stuff that was taking away and distracting me, and that I was I was focusing on really not the right things, and then when I started to, it kind of was this combination of, kind of removing things that weren't serving in a good way and growing me, but it was adding things that were. But it is a combination of all of those things that we talk about. And I didn't do any, I didn't do any of it. I hated to read. I didn't want to talk about stuff. I wasn't going to counseling. Like, I didn't listen to podcasts. And just think, once you kind of start, and it's a couple years now. I mean, it's taken time. It's not overnight, but I think it was just a matter of wanting to figure out that full potential. And it takes a lot of work,
Well, yeah. And just to feel different, Mel. I mean, just to feel different as a woman, as a human being, you get to that point where it's like, okay, enough's enough. Like, I need to make a change. I need to feel better about me as a person, who I am. What am I putting out to this in this world? What vibrations am I sending out?
Right.
It just I think, just like you did, you have to come to that moment where enough is enough.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that I look for. When I told you earlier, I listen to, when I sit down with women and I listen and I listen for that, where they're either so numb to it. I'm like, they don't even know. Like, they don't even, and it's to break that down then, and to get them to start opening up from that and understanding that there is something more, right? But you have to want it then.
Yeah. And I think that there were so many things. It's so funny because it's taken a couple years of changing my mindset. And, like Billy, one of the things is like, he was such a self-improvement junkie. And then I started doing a lot of the same, doing the things that he was like. He influenced me a lot in this process. And I'm a self-improvement junkie. Like, all the stuff that I read and, growth, and that I want to inspire other people. He inspired me, which is great. So I think that it's definitely about who you meet, but absolutely. I think that there was always there. I think that a lot of the people that we, that maybe, our message, these message that you're trying to inspire and things, is that we have this feeling like there's something else there. There's something more that we want. There's something that we're not feeding ourselves enough, and we don't know what it is. So then we take this path and the journey. And I think that a lot of the things that I'm reading too, and I'm definitely experiencing, is it is more of the journey and what we learn along the way. Every day I have aha moments, like, like, no wonder, and this is what's been holding me back, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And I'm going to get that thought out. I'm not worthy of this, and I'm not worthy of that. A lot of mine sparks with finances. A lot of mine sparks with relationships that, have things to do with, my mom's experiences and things that, you see growing up, and that you hear, and that you're kind of told. But I think that, like you said, that understanding it, and like, I started a lot more with self-reflection and self-awareness. Like, okay, we all have to be honest with ourselves, because we can't be honest with anybody else. And one of the things was that we float through life on the surface, and I didn't want a surface life. I wanted to know myself to the core. And I've said this for, after my divorce, I said, you know what? I want to know someone to the core, so deep down that it's sick. Like I open my eyes. I'm like, it's sick. Yeah. Like, that's how bad. Like, I sound like a cuckoo crazy lady.
No.
But I want to know. And what was funny was, I wanted to know somebody. I said, that's what it's going to be. That I want to know someone so deep to the core. I know, like, but I had to start with myself, knowing myself deep to the core. So deep, sick, cuckoo, like shit. So what's funny was I kept saying that about, within a relationship, but I kind of had to do that with myself too, because I want someone to see me and see all that stuff, right? And allow me to see them too. So it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
And, I just think that, after the pandemic, there were a lot of people that made some major changes, I think, in their lives and saw a lot of stress and trauma. And I think it's a really good time, that we just really encourage people to see what we, kind of experience the things that we did. And it's start their glow up,
Create the momentum is what I would say. You're on a momentum journey right now. That's why I love it. You're like talking so much, and I learned this about myself today, and then this opened up, and it's freeing. It's freeing when you get that. And you have that growth every day occurring because you are working on yourself so much that it's opening all these new things up, which just allows you though to be that person that you're really looking to be, right? Ultimately, or ways to help more people because you're learning more. And so, people are going to gravitate towards you, Mel, because they're going to understand, wow, like, look where she was, look where she is at, and look where she's going to. I want to do that. I want to be able to just be on that journey, but it's not an easy start. And I think that's where the glow up is really important. You have to want it. You have to want it. You have to want to put things into action. And once you start doing that, it's like, you got it made, girl. All the other stuff can happen around you. Are you going to have down days? Heck yeah. Are you going to, is it going to be perfect? Hell no. But at the end of the day, like, the things to do to make sure that you got yourself still going in the motions you want to go, no matter what life brings you. And when other people, like you're talking about relationships, when other people are reciprocating that, right? Wow. Right. I mean, that's huge.
And I think it brings, like you said, about like being like kind of magnet. It's like your energy, your what you're kind of, I always say, like, when you what you put out, you get back. You're negative, you're going to get negative back. Positive, get positive back. Yeah. And it, like you said, it's going to be hard, I think, but you just have to start. And I think that it's also, when you said that there will be people who you start to connect, like you have those connections, and that are like the, universe and God's like, bringing into your life and feeding you. And like, you're like, this is great. And unfortunately it can get very lonely as well, because sometimes there's that disconnect from the people who aren't at that place. And I've experienced that too a lot this year, where it's almost starting to be where it's, it's hard for some people to understand, where you're at. And it's hard for you to then understand where they are. And then there's kind of a, maybe you don't. And again, it's not that you outgrow people. I think it's just where you're at. But that's a difficult, it's not a piece of cake when, especially the hard work. But a lot of the things that I want to share through this process too are like routine. I mean, I think that you have to really cut out a lot of things to add good stuff. You have to cut out, anything that you're going to add, you have to cut. But I also think that for me, I had to create a lot of space for myself and my mind. And everyone knows me. I went, 200 miles an hour. I was involved in, 20 different events at a time. But what was it doing for me other than stress? It really, I mean, there were some, definitely positive things about it, but it started to become more negative than good. Yeah. And I think that, there's a lot of, like evaluation that needs to be done in what is in that thing of like what you want to do. I think the action boards and the vision boards, we'll talk about that. We're going to set, a couple of girls that I know had set, we need to set a date, for that action party that our action boards that I want to do. But I think it's a matter of, when I talk to people about certain things lately, it's like, what are you really interested in? Like, what are you really passionate about? And who do you want to be? Now, I don't know. You say like, that's the $1 million question. It's like, what's your purpose? well, what's your purpose in life? Like, like, I don't know. What's my purpose? Well, the more that you sit down and you think about it and you're maneuvering and you're talking to people, I've had probably, I don't know, 5 conversations in the last 2 weeks, maybe 4 conversations that helped me go, that's it. I want to do something like that, like just by talking about it through people. And I think really focusing on like the idea of, obviously getting to the place where you're like, I'm worthy of this and this can actually happen, versus it's like almost this process. But I do think that, you don't have to, I guess my whole point is you don't have to really know what it is. I didn't know what it was 5-6 years ago. I didn't know what it is 2 years ago. I still am like maneuvering that direction of what I want to do. But it's getting so close to like actually defining, what is that passion and what is that? And it's things that I wanted my whole life, that I've said I wanted to do, and who I wanted to be. And I think that I just got so far off of that and distracted by so many things that, I had to get back on track, and I had to almost reset from the beginning.
Yeah, distractions will take you really far away from your ultimate goals, even if you haven't fully envisioned the final vision, if you would call it, right? The end goal. And, it's really funny because I always say to myself, what is the end goal? Like, is it that? Because I'm going to continue to grow every day. So who knows, right? It's going to change all the time. And there's the beauty in that. But it's allowing yourself to understand that those distractions all they're doing is taking you further away from it and making it take longer for you to get there. Right. So I was you before, though, when you were talking about putting all the things on your plate, going 200 miles an hour, every which direction. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that type of stuff, there are good parts of it, right? Pick and choose what you do, but allow yourself to still have the time to fulfill those things that you want to do ultimately. And some of the times I think I was filling it. I don't know if this was you, Mel, but I was filling my space with things probably, I'm not going to say probably, just to keep myself busy almost, to not even be able to realize some of the real struggles that were happening in my life, if that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know, it had to be my early 30s. I just had like one of these moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I ultimately doing here? Like, how is this going to get me here?
Right.
And I just had to start eliminating things. And then of course, as I got a little older, took on a little more things. Then I'm like, nope. Said, had to say no to a couple more things, because at the end of the day, for anybody who's listening, it is your journey. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's not. But the ideas is that you have to notice, you have to recognize when the distractions need to go, when the right people need to be brought into your life, when you need to change things up a little. I call it like not completely pivoting in your business if you have a business, but pivot enough that it makes you happy about what you're doing if you're starting to get stagnant, right? And just always being on that forward motion of growth.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny. I switched up my background, as you can see. I wanted it's not so great with the backlighting, but actually what was funny, I wanted to tell you, because these cabinets are here, I'm going to post some photos and videos. And one of the things that I'm doing and making changes with my business is things that I've talked about for years, and, going online, and I talk about, digital this and that. Well, I got rid of 8 trash bags of 12 years almost of invitation samples that I've toted through 4 moves, at least 4 moves. I mean, heavy ass totes that I almost broke my back coming up the basement. I had 3 full totes, and these whole shelves here were full of invitation printed things that I'm going to send them to this, or I'm going to use them for that. I mean, I had a retail space, which I'm never going to have for the invitations, but I got rid of them. And I actually have pictures. It took up my whole half of my office here.
Wow.
And I just said, I got into the, getting out, cleaning, clutter, distractions every day. I thought, oh my gosh, that whole thing is full. I stare at this cabinet. And I'm like, it's full of my past business. I'm holding on to the printed invitations for what? And I just said, today is the day. I emptied it all. I threw them all away. I kept certain ones that it's like, oh, I am going to actually mail these to country clubs because I want, that's, I do a lot of invitations for that. It's higher dollar.
Yeah.
And I just started, and I even caught myself saying, oh, well, maybe I'll send this. Nope, throw it away. Nope, throw it away. And I mean, 8
I love it.
full trash bags. And I feel, I recycle, but it's like, it was very freeing. Like you talked about that word freeing, so that I can move on to the next phase, online, digital.
Yeah, I love it. I just did that with my closet, by the way. And it was the most freeing thing. And I think we just moved here a year ago to almost the month. And I already went through a big purge just recently. I was upstairs. I got rid of all this stuff. And when I was done, all these garbage bags full of clothes to donate. And it felt so good. Yeah. But it felt like you can move forward now.
Yeah.
Because that is eliminated. It might be something as simple as clothing. But, I just urge people, if they're listening today, to do something like that. Maybe that's something that comes out of every Monday for you, girl, is like giving somebody a call to action. Today, free yourself a little.
Let's do it.
Right?
Every Monday. Yes, let's do it. We'll give them like a little bit of, get rid of something, or, instead of Mel's moment at the end, we do like, like purge, free yourself of this, but it's true. You're shedding,
or free yourself. Yeah. Because limiting beliefs are huge. I mean, it doesn't have to be something tangible you're freeing yourself of. You need to free yourself of a thought process, maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Mentally, and holding on to, like past stuff. I think we should do it. Like, shedding the past and the unnecessary things that are like distracting. But that was huge for me, because a lot of people know, like I've had, a journey with my business that I held on to things. I felt like a failure when I couldn't keep my retail shop. And, I never really took the action and the things that I needed, because of a lot of, other things that were going on personally, professionally. And like, once I got through those things, I mean, just think like that's been for 10, like I think it's over 10 years.
Yeah.
I've had them, and I've collected them, because for what? Like, I'm just holding on to something that has evolved and is not the same. And if I want to move forward, which I am making those steps with, hiring somebody to do the templates, getting, researching how to, looking at what other people are doing in the space. And if they can do it, I can do it. I have, 5 times as many designs that person does. And if they can do it, I can do it. And I think that's what we should do, is we should end this. Even though this is just the beginning, right? Yeah. This is the start. We should end this by saying, no, you said it better, with one thing today that you can free yourself of, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Free yourself of something today, whether it be tangible, a thought process, the way you feel about yourself. Free yourself of something.
Yep.
Because you're going to feel so much better the rest of this week if you just do that. I love it. Task. Doesn't take long.
I love it. Well, do you have your book with you, by the way?
I do, girl.
Okay. Can you hold your book up, because it's going to be yet another reminder. I have it in my shopping cart with a couple other books.
Okay.
So everybody, if you love today, which, I think hopefully you did, and you listened on Friday. If not, you should go and listen to the podcast with Billy and Krissy from Friday. That was fantastic. Yeah. But I think we should all get your book. And I love that you came on with me today, because, I wasn't afraid, but I think it helped calm my initial start here with, with nerves too. And you made me feel really comfortable. So I appreciate you coming on. And I think you're going to be back a lot more.
And I think you're going to do amazing with this. I think you're going to do so much for so many people and change a lot of lives, which is what it's all about.
Yes. And you too. So it's good. All right. Well, guys, Friday, actually, I mean, maybe I'll just hop on and do like a quick little wine, not yell with wine. That's a lot of wine though on Mondays that I'm gonna have.
I love it though. I love the wine one.
But make sure on Friday that you guys tune in. Billy and I will be back. He has another special guest for me. He's surprising me yet again. And at 2 p.m. live so that you guys can hop on and comment. And please follow Krissy and get her book. And we'll see you on Friday at 2 and meet next Monday morning.
All right, guys.
Yes.
See ya. Have a great
Bye,
day.
Krissy. Bye.
See you, girl.